Hello, today we're going to be looking at modifying and manipulating 2D objects in Vectorworks 2025. We've learned already how to make some of the basic shapes here, but today we're going to start playing with these and seeing what we can do. A lot of what we're going to be using is up here in this Modify tab. So you'll notice we have Modify and Model. A lot of your 2D things are going to be here in Modify, and a lot of the similar actions are over here under Model. But today we're going to be playing mostly in Modify. So today what we're going to look at is Add Surface. So say we have two objects here. If we select both of those and we want to create one object, all we have to do is select them both and click Add Surface. And now we've got a shape just like that. That's Add Surface. You're going to find yourself using that one quite a bit. Next we have Clip Surface. So that's up here in your Modify as well. With Clip Surface, if you have two objects, you can run that. And what that essentially does now is the circle has taken a little bite out of our rectangle there. So we start with two solid objects, and then they kind of notch out where they meet. The thing that's important to remember here is that these have a stacking order. So every time you draw a new shape, it will appear on top of the previous ones. So you'll see how they kind of stack up like that. So it matters what piece is on top in terms of what's being clipped. So if we run this one the same way we just had, Modify, Clip Surface, we now get a circle and then a rectangle with a bite taken out. We can send this one to the front if we want, and that would take a bite out of the circle. Or we could send this one back. To do that, you can just right-click once an object's selected, and then go to Send to the back. So now the circle is behind that, and if we were to run this again, the same operation will give you a different look just depending on how things are stacked. So again, that's send forward and send back. You can also Control F to bring something forward, or Control B to send it back. The Offset tool, that's this one right here. What that allows you to do is basically create the same shape, however offset by a given amount. Just to show you what that does, I will select that, and then you can indicate how far you want it offset. 6 inches, let's say. So let's select that, and then if you click outside, it will offset to the outside. If you click inside the shape, it will offset to the inside. When we offset to the outside, you'll notice that you don't see the underlying geometry. That's just because, again, the way they stack. So the smaller square is still there. You just can't see it. So we'll run that again here. So you'll see as we offset. Now in here, if the offset is smaller than 6 inches, or whatever your geometry is, it will modify what's in there to make that work. That is the Offset tool. Super handy. And you'll find yourself using that quite a bit. So now that we're getting a whole bunch of shapes out there, if you want, you can actually group a lot of shapes together. So grouping means that we're going to collect all of these. We'll select all of them, Modify, and go down to Group. And so now we can move this around as one unit. You can scale it as one unit. So we can pull this up. Do something like that. If you want to scale without distorting the actual shapes, you want to scale in a perfect square, you just hold Shift. And that will scale everything. That is grouping. And then if you want, you can ungroup by right-clicking on the group. So again, there, select, Modify to group. Or you can use Control G is the hotkey for that. And then to ungroup, you can just right-click, and you'll see ungroup right there. Now, say you don't want to totally ungroup, but you just want to modify something that is within the group. Again, you can right-click, and then go to Edit. And now you'll see this yellow border around here. That tells you that you are inside the group. So I can make changes now, and when I exit the group, they will still remain a group, only with the modified look. Then again, you can scale it however you like. ungroup, and there you are. Let's look now at the mirror tool. This one can actually be found in your basic tool set. There are a couple in here I want to show you. The mirror tool is great if you're trying to get something, say you have something complicated like this and you don't want to redraw the whole thing. Say this is half of a proscenium or something like that. What you do is you select the object, grab your mirror tool. Again, make sure there are two different modes up here. I am in duplicate mode, so whatever I mirror will be duplicated. With this tool, essentially, you strike a line, and that will mirror right across that line. It'll bring up this little blue shadow so you know where it's going to be once you're done. And the second click will finish that. So now you have all this together. You could add surface and have a final looking thing. The other place I like to use mirror is if duplicating something would be difficult by simply copying and pasting. So say I wanted this little thing on each of the corners of this rectangle. If it was a circle or something simple like that, I could just copy and then click on the corner and paste and paste and paste. But if you were to try something like that with an odd shape, it would paste centered on those corners, but the orientation would be all weird. So it's easy enough to just grab this, grab your mirror tool, and then click in the center and draw the line wherever you want it to be. Draw there to mirror to that side or to that side. And you can mirror multiple objects at the same time. Hold Shift to select two, and then again you can just mirror right across the center line there. And that gives you that operation. So I use mirror quite a bit. A very similar tool is going to be rotate, and that does exactly what you think it does. So select an object, grab your rotate tool. The first click is going to be sort of the pivot point around which it will rotate. So we'll rotate off of there. One point to set the pivot point, another point to give you a handle, and then again as you bring it around, you'll see that it gives that little blue shadow, similar to mirror. Now again, there are different modes, so you can rotate like I just did. Let's say we're going to rotate around the center here. But you can also have duplicate mode as opposed to standard mode. With duplicate, every time you rotate, it creates another one. And you can just keep doing that. So that is rotate. Let's take a look now at our split tool. It's over here on the left-hand side in your basic tool palette. The split tool looks like a little knife. What this allows you to do is essentially draw a line and cut something across that line. So just to show you, you have to select an object, grab your split tool. Now I'm using line split mode. That's what I usually use and what you'll probably use most. With this mode, you basically draw a line and it just cuts the thing in half. There are also options here for all objects mode or selected objects mode. If you're in selected objects, if I draw a line to cut, it will only cut through the one object that is selected. Just like that. If you were to use all objects mode, select that, everything that you cut through is going to be cut in two. So now we have that piece and that piece. The other mode you may want to play with is this line trim mode. With this one, essentially, it's very similar. You draw a line, and then you pick which side of this line with your third click you wish to keep. I want to keep just that side. Now you'll notice these are not enclosed objects. This is just a polyline, essentially. If we were to extrude that, you'll see in space that it isn't enclosed. So what we'd want to do is actually compose this into an enclosed polygon. So to do that, you can simply connect that line right like that. Now again, if we were to extrude these, it still wouldn't actually be enclosed. You'll see it recognizes it as this line and then the outer bounds there. So what we would want to do is draw the line here to close that. It looks like a polygon, but it's not. It's just a bunch of lines. Select those though, go up to Modify menu again, and Compose. And now it recognizes it as an actual shape. So if we extrude that, you'll see there, that's the difference between having a closed and a not closed shape. Another way to do that, and it's actually a little bit simpler, let's say we run the same operation again here. We cut that apart, and we keep that side. If you look over here in Object Info, it'll say it's a polyline, but if you scroll down, there's a little checkbox, and you can simply close it here. So now it's closed off. If you were to extrude, again, you'd have a solid. A similar operation would actually be decompose. So if you have a shape like this, you move it around, it's one whole thing. If you select it, Modify, Decompose, you're now left with just 4 lines. And that's decompose. Similar to the split tool, we also have the trim tool. What this allows us to do is to clean up lines. So say you're working on some interesting geometry here, and you want this whole thing to be one nice looking shape. You can draw your lines however you like, and then you grab your little scissors, the trim tool here. And what this does is it lops off the ends of these extra lines wherever they intersect. So for example, if I were to click there, it cleans that one up, cleans that up, and so on. And what that allows you to do is to create these shapes. Now, again, these are all still different shapes. But if you were to select all of that again and go up to Compose, you now have that entire solid shape. The other thing you could do to run a similar operation would be come up here and grab your Polygon Tool. It recognizes these lines, but if you have your fill bucket, if you drop in there, that will create the shape as well. And that's a non-destructive, so it'll leave all your other lines and such there. It will basically just fill that in and create a copy for you. So that was the Polygon Tool. Another tool you can use to cut things apart a little bit is going to be this Clip tool. So with this tool, you have a lot of options up here as well. You have a lot of different modes. So you can pick one of these 3, which is going to be exclusion, inclusion, and split mode. And then you can pick a shape you're going to draw, a rectangle or a polygon or a circle. Let's go with just rectangle for now. So we have rectangle and exclusion mode, which means everything inside the box will get deleted. And you'll be left with this. With inclusion mode, everything inside the box is kept. And with split mode, essentially that just creates splits. You can also do that with other, so you don't have to use rectangles, you can do that with polygon as well. So if you want to notch out something weird here, you can do that, and that will give you 3 different parts. And then they have circle as well. But that is the Clip tool. Let's look real quick at these two. They're related. We have the Fillet Tool and the Chamfer. What these essentially allow you to do is to knock the edges off of corners. I use these quite a bit. The Fillet Tool, you can set the radius of the fillet, and essentially you pick the 2 lines and it curves it for you. So that was with a 1-foot curve. We can change that up here. Let's change that to 4 foot, and you'll see if I select my 2 corners, it'll round it at 4 foot. So that's fillet. Now, something to note, you don't have to be a right angle either, so that'll work on a similar piece like this. And I use this one quite a bit. If you double click the whole shape like I just did, it will round every single corner. Similar to Fillet, we have the Chamfer Tool, which will knock these corners off in a straight line, like that. And again, you can, up here, you can say how far you want it to cut in. So say you wanted it to cut in 1 foot from one edge and 4 foot from another edge. You can do it like that as well. So that's chamfer and fillet. I use those a lot just for finishing different pieces to making them really look polished. Let's take a look now at our Move by Points tool, which is this guy right here. I find this one handy under certain circumstances. So let's say I'm working on a fence panel and I want to have these little posts spread out evenly across this fence panel so that it looks nice and clean. With Move by Points, what you can do is make duplicates and space them out. You can tell it up here in the box how many duplicates you want. Let's say I want 12 fence posts. So with this, you'll see I'm in Move and Duplicate mode. I don't use Move mode that much. I'll occasionally use Distribute. I'll show you what those mean. But let's just look at Move and Duplicate. So with that, I select the fence post here. I click one edge, and it will form 12 different fence posts along here. And you'll see it kind of has that blue shadow as you're working on it. Let's try this mode would actually be better for this application, Distribute. So I would click here, and then it will follow my cursor down, and it will end perfectly at the end of that fence segment. And so these are all spaced exactly apart. That's Move by Points. And you can do arrays as well. Let's say you have all of these are selected. I could take that and I could do another 12. So I've got 144 of these sticks or whatnot. So that is Move by Points. It's pretty useful under certain circumstances. And then these aren't really tools for modifying, but I do want to show you, since we're still in our basic tool palette, some of the dimensioning tools in here. I don't use these a lot. Especially in a design layer. I usually do all my dimensioning once I export everything through viewports or whatever into a sheet layer. But just so you know, these are your dimensioning tools. So you just click one point, click another point, and pull it out. And that'll tell you how long something is. Now you should know there is a constrained mode and an unconstrained mode. So if I were to run on this edge, it's actually telling me just the distance across. If you want to measure this angled one, you need to switch over to your unconstrained dimension. Click, click, and you'll see that pulls it out across that angle. You can also measure angles, things like that. So you have this odd angle. Click the two edges that you want to measure the distance between, the angle of, and pull that out. Now, a lot of times though, I'll drop dimensions in just to remind myself of something, but they actually have tools for that as well. There's the tape measure tool and the protractor. So if I don't want to mess up my drawing with a lot of these different dimensions, I'll just grab my tape measure, and you can just click one corner, and you'll see in the blue box to the bottom right of my cursor, it's measuring out how far I'm going. So if I pull it out and I have snapping on, it'll snap right to that corner, and that's 15.735 inches. So that's the tape measure. Protractor works very much the same way. Click, click, and you'll see the angle there in the blue box, 106. And lastly up here, the last one I think I want to show you is this text tool. So what you can do with this one is you can click on here, and you can simply type. Now, up here you can change whatever that is. If I were to change it now while I'm still inside the box, it would only change everything moving forward. But if I want to change things among the whole text box, go ahead and select the text box, and then you can change it in here. Then you can re-enter it just by double-clicking and fix things up. The fun part of this, too, that you may want to play with is we also have this text drop down here from the menu. So with your text selected, you can go in here and you can convert it to polylines. So now it doesn't recognize this as text so much as just the shapes of the text. Why that's great is you can ungroup these. And now you can modify if you wanted to. You can change the font, do whatever you want to do. The other cool thing that you can do is you can extrude these now. Text you can't simply extrude, but if they're polylines, you can. So you can do something cool like that. And you may be using that scenically on, signage or different scenic elements. But that's a fun little trick. And that's it for this lesson, I believe. There are a couple more in here that you may want to play with, but those are the ones that I find myself using the most. So play with those, and I hope it goes well, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.